Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. So most of you know me as Satsu, or aka Let Him Cook. I don't usually use face cam for my videos on here because I genuinely just don't like having my face on camera. I don't think I have a face made for camera at all, but I figured going forward, especially if I want to stay true to myself and talk more, I don't know, more honestly about these topics and stuff. Not that I wasn't being honest about it before, but I feel like at this point, hiding my face or just not showing my face, just it makes it a little harder for people to connect with the person who's actually behind the channel. And I think going forward, I really want to kind of let you guys know exactly who it is you're talking to, and so you understand the person behind, you know, the channel or the avatar or whatever. Because a lot of these topics going forward that I'm probably going to cover on this channel are going to be very personal, and it's going to be heavily related to the political climate that we're in right now. Because I think as many people as possible who don't fit the, I guess, quote unquote mold of what a person who's not a left winger or a Democrat usually is supposed to look like, which is kind of crazy to even insinuate in itself. But I think seeing more of us speak out and talk about our experiences with the Democratic Party and, you know, what they've essentially done to us and are continuing to do to us, it's really important to speak about. Because, you know, it's kind of getting to that critical mass. You know, we're getting to a point to where, like, people are literally coming out and saying directly that they 100% support political violence, and if you share views with anybody who they disagree with, then you're fair game to be murdered. And so I guess some people would say, well, that's even more incentive to not show your face, but I disagree. I think being as transparent as possible and letting these people know that there are plenty of people who look like us and who look like all kinds of people, you know, not just black people or people with brown skin, but pretty much anybody who has a shred of common sense or basic decency and humanity should be against something like political murder. You know what I mean? And I want people to see what I look like and know that I am a person who is against the murder of people who you disagree with. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about how growing up in the environment that I grew up in, how I managed to not become a perpetual victim and not claim or blame everything negative that has ever happened in my life on racism and stuff like that. Because growing up, even though I was kind of fed that narrative as a kid, by my own people, mind you, that I will never be anything, I will never really amount to anything, everything I try to do will fail because there will always be somebody trying to stop me. I'm trying to be white because, you know, of my various interests or, you know, whatever other things that I took interest in that were outside of what the proper, well-trained black people in the Democratic, under the Democratic umbrella were supposed to be trained to think, like, and believe in. You know, like, all that stuff was fed to me. And to be perfectly honest, I never really felt restricted in my life as much as I did when I lived in the hood. You know, it wasn't until I finally left that hostile environment that I felt free to be who I wanted to be, while simultaneously being told that being who I wanted to be is impossible because the world would never allow me to do so, which is kind of crazy because the very same people who were telling me that were also ensuring that I don't do the things that I wanted to do because it was impossible. It's kind of crazy how that works, right? You know, it's just like your abuser telling you, like, hey, look, nobody loves you out in that world. The only person who can ever love you is me. You don't need to ever go out there because, you know, you'll never find what I can provide to you here. That type of really negative kind of, you know, dynamic. And like I said, it wasn't until I moved out of that environment that, you know, and don't get me wrong, growing up in that environment and then moving out into the world with all of that stuff in the back of my head, really, it intimidated me. It kind of scared me a little bit because I'm like, okay, I don't personally believe in my heart that these things that these people are telling me is true, but I don't have any experience. They would know more than I do, so maybe it is like that. But the reason that I doubted it in the first place, kind of growing up, is because even within the community that I was in, there was this narrative that people who look like me can't succeed, won't succeed, and aren't allowed to succeed. Yet in my environment, there were people who were considered to be successful or who went on to be successful in our neighborhoods, and they were just apparently the lucky ones. You know, they were the ones who were just they were just lucky. But I would talk to these people and I'd be like, why do you feel this way? Why do you feel like, my friend who wanted to be an artist and who wanted to draw or whatever, like, you can draw. I've seen your art. You can do it. You've done it or whatever, and it looks good, and all you have to do is like put it out in the world. And their whole thing was like, I can't, because white people will never accept my art. They'll never accept the stuff that I draw. It's not the same as the stuff they like, and they're gonna reject it. And I'm like, how are you certain about that? Have you done it? And they're like, there's no point, there's no reason to. And I'm just like, that doesn't make any sense. You have a definitive narrative, a definitive kind of result to something you've never even tried or experienced yet. And they had excuse after excuse after excuse every day as to why they couldn't or wouldn't do it, but no reason to actually make it happen. It blew my mind. And it just confused me, because this was a common theme in my circle of friends and people who I talked to. They had all these ambitions and things that they wanted to do that they were afraid to talk about in front of other Black people. Some like anime, some like a certain genre of music, some like a certain type of food, some like to wear certain types of clothes, and they kept it to themselves, or either they hid it or they didn't discuss it, because they felt that the outside world, outside of our little bubble, was never going to accept it, but didn't realize that the reason that they were hiding all of these things about them in the first place is because the people in our immediate area were the ones already denying them those things. You see how that doesn't make sense? It's just like, I'm so scared to put myself out there and show all these parts of me that are actually me, because all these people who apparently care about me are telling me that the people out there will never accept this part of you, so keep it hidden, when in reality, the people who are telling you this right now are the ones who don't accept that about you and are preventing you from doing it in the first place. And it never clicked to them. It never clicked to them that the people in their ear telling them how much they can't do are the reason for their limitations, because it literally prevented them from trying it in the first place, unless it was in secret or in hiding. So that never really made sense to me, because I'm just like, you're talking about all these external factors that are preventing you from doing the thing you want to do, but all those external factors aren't here. They're not, like, you're not in that environment, you're in this environment. And all I see with my own eyes are the people telling you that you can't do it or you shouldn't do it. That's what I see. But for some reason, these people couldn't see it. They couldn't recognize the fact that the very thing that they listened to on a day-to-day basis was the thing that was holding them back. So when I got out into the real world, I stepped out with some cautious skepticism, because I'm just like, are white people really this bad? Like, am I really gonna get out into the world and try to get a job interview or whatever, and they're just gonna deny me outright because they're gonna be like, your skin's too dark? Like, is that really how the world works? Because that's how TV portrays it. That's how all these other people say it is. So I mean, that's how it must be, I guess. And then I got out into the world, and it was like a culture shock. The fact that I was just kind of openly embraced, and it was either a bunch of people who just flat out was like, oh, you do this, cool, like, that's fine, or it was just this level of kind of indifference that I didn't even recognize from my own neighborhood, because everybody in my own neighborhood couldn't mind their fucking business. Like, everybody was in everybody's business. Everybody was worried about what somebody else was doing. You'd come to school with a certain pair of shoes on, and for some reason that was everybody's business, and everybody had to comment on the fact that your shoes weren't expensive enough, or some bull crap like that, or your hair wasn't cut in a certain type of way, so that was everybody else's problem now. You had X amount of money, people talked shit about you for that. Your parents were in trouble because of, whatever financial reasons, they talked shit about you for that. Like, no matter what, it doesn't matter what it was, and it didn't matter how much you had or what you did, everybody always found a reason to disparage you about anything. You played video games, you're a fucking loser. You watched anime, you're trying to be white. You talk proper, you know, you're trying to be white. Or it was anything. You wearing shoes, you must be broke. Or you talking to this girl or whatever. Like, it was always something. They would always find some reason to make you feel like shit for whatever it is you did. And the only way to avoid that was to fall in line and join in to help pick a target, you know, and to prevent you from being the target. That was just the culture. That's how it really worked. And that wasn't even just in school or whatever. That was like in my own house. I couldn't enjoy the things that I wanted to enjoy because my own siblings would give me shit about the things that I liked, you know? And fortunately, my mom wasn't really like that. You know, my mom was pretty accepting of all of us, and she didn't really raise us to be victims. Like, she would talk about things that would happen in the world and society, but she never established a baseline of just like, everybody who doesn't look like us is like this, and nobody will ever let you do anything. She was more of a, you know, you can do whatever you want to do in life type of person, you know, which is where I think I got a lot of my mindset from, because despite the fact that everybody else told me different, my mom was like, yeah, hey, whatever you want to do, go do it, you know? And that was always really encouraging for me because, you know, single mom, shocker, you know, and 5 kids, trying to make it work, which is another topic of discussion, you know, just the single mom epidemic going on in the Black neighborhood that people refuse to acknowledge or talk about, because we can't talk about the actual problems. We can't talk about the real things that are affecting our upbringing, our environment, and our culture in general. No, we got to talk about the super official things, the things that are actually rare and don't really happen often, like police shootings. And I don't even want to get started on that because, like, back when I lived in the hood, I wasn't a bad kid, so I didn't really have a lot of run-ins with police. But the ones that I did have, 9 times out of 10, the black cop was the worst in the group. No matter what. If there was a group of cops, there was always at least one black cop in the group. That was the motherfucker who would fuck you up. That was the dude who wanted you to say something. He wanted you to step out of line. He wanted you to look at him wrong so he could fuck you up. Like that. And all the white cops just like watched it happen because they like, hey, they're your people. But that stems from a lot of my viewpoints now when I say that the Democratic Party has created, they went from being the arbiters and the backers of racism and keeping black people in chains, because that's what the Democratic Party has always stood for and represented, to now saying, look, we don't have to put chains on these Negroes. All we need to do is train them to chain themselves and cultivate and keep a mindset that keeps them pinned against each other. Because as soon as they unify, it's going to be really dangerous for us. And as soon as they get the ability to understand that they can achieve and they can do all the things that they want to do, that's not going to be good for us. Because if we allow those ignorant monkeys to be able to think and do things on their own, they're going to discover that they can do that. And we cannot allow that at all. So make sure you let them know. Make sure all of their TV programming lets them know that they'll never accomplish anything because evil Whitey's gonna stop them. Let them know that, let their teachers teach them that society is really horrible towards them and they're always gonna get the short end of the stick. So don't bother trying too hard because it's never gonna matter. You know, make sure we break up their families and keep them consistently dependent on the government. Make sure we keep the dads out of the house and push promiscuous culture and fucking as many women as you can and getting them pregnant and paying child support and getting the bag and not actually supporting your neighbor. Like, make sure all that negativity, all the stuff that keep the people fucked up, put the Planned Parenthoods and stuff in their neighborhoods. Make sure there's a liquor store on every corner. Like, whatever we got to do to keep these Negroes down, we need to do it. But we need to also be that voice and pretend like we're the ones who really care about you. That's why we make sure you got all that alcohol to drink. We're the ones that really care about you. That's why when your baby daddy leaves you, we step in as your new daddy and give you this money to make sure that you depend on us so you don't have to depend on them anymore. You know, that's why we want to make sure we let you know that despite what those evil, nasty, Nazi white people say about you, we're the good ones and we got your back and we'll always have your best interest in mind. But remember, don't ever step out of line or say something or behave in a way that we don't approve of because you think we're bad. You think we're gonna shame you or whatever. Imagine what the world out there is gonna do to you if you ever step out of line, or if you ever toot your nose up to think that you're allowed to walk or bask in the same light as those superior whites. Like the messaging has been that way forever. They just found a different tactic. They're like, okay, we used to put these people in chains and beat them into submission. We don't have to do that anymore. We have a whole bunch of other systems in place, and this is the systematic racism or whatever that these people talk about but don't acknowledge. They think it's something else. Their brain is telling them that the systematic racism or whatever, it's another thing. It's a different thing run by different people. But no, all these people who live in a Democratic state with a Democratic mayor, Democratic governor, Democratic police chief, and everything else, they're just like, yeah, every problem that you have living in this area run by us is somebody else's fault, not ours. It's somebody else's fault. And don't worry, even though we're successful politicians, even though we're successful celebrities, even though we're successful rappers and football players and all that stuff, you could never do what we do because we just got lucky. But y'all are just the average regular Negro, so you'll never be able to accomplish and do the things that we do because there will always be a hurdle in front of you. There wasn't a hurdle in front of us. There wasn't anybody stopping us from doing what we wanted to do, but that we're different from you. We're obviously of a better breed than you are. You're just regular Negroes, so you'll never be able to accomplish anything that we do because they won't ever let you. They let us for some reason. For some reason, we got past the gatekeepers, but you never will. So just keep that in mind. It's really kind of infuriating, because it's so obvious. Like when you actually open your eyes and take time to take a look around, it's so unbelievably and blatantly obvious what's going on here. It actually hurts. It hurts to watch people run around in these Charlie Kirk interviews and stuff like that, or on these college campuses, and listen to a person who grew up with a silver spoon in their mouth in a really nice neighborhood. They got maids in their house. They can do whatever they want. They've never been hungry, never had a racist encounter in their entire life, yet they will look you in the face and say, look, we're basically the same as the slaves who got brought over here. There's nothing different. We're experiencing life just like they were, and we're oppressed and we can't accomplish anything just like they couldn't. It's crazy. It's crazy to see a person in a prestigious college that they got into and probably didn't actually earn their way into due to DEI and stuff, and have them say to you, hey, look, we have TV that are exclusive to Black channels. We have colleges that are exclusive to Black people. We have grants and rewards and all types of scholarships or whatever that are exclusive to Black people. We've had a Black president. All of our celebrities and biggest, highest level, and some of the most influential people out there are Black. But still, it's basically exactly the same as before. We'll never be able to be successful, except for all the people who are, but they don't count though. That's a different thing. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's like somebody trying to explain to me that 2 + 2 = 8, and I'm just like, but it doesn't though. And they're like, no, but you just weren't trained properly. Did your master tell you? They didn't inform you that you can't succeed at life? I don't understand how you grew up having the same masters that we do, and they didn't whip you into shape and lead you to believe that you can't succeed or be anything in life. I don't get that. And they look at you like you're the anomaly. Oh my God, how did you miss the indoctrination class? I thought we all were on the same page here. And I'm just like, bro, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not a professional victim. I'm just not. All of the stuff that I had to kind of prepare myself for when I left the hood and stuff, none of that shit came to pass. Did I experience some things that I considered to be racist or whatever? Yeah, sure I did. But those are on an individual cases from individual people who were racist people. Like, it was just like, that's a racist person. And 90% of the time, anybody else who I told about it, who I explained it to them, none of those people were like, oh yeah, that's what's supposed to happen, or like that's supposed to happen to you. Like, nobody, everybody was shocked and appalled. Like, I cannot believe this person did that, and they were thoroughly punished for the thing that they did every time. So like, none of these narratives line up. Like, none of this stuff lines up. And a lot of people assume that because, you know, people like us come out and we say stuff like this, we're saying racism doesn't exist. No, that's ridiculous. Racism exists because humans exist. And as long as human beings exist, and there's more than 2 of them on the planet at any given moment, they're not gonna like each other. That's just how it works. But that's acknowledging the fact that in every major group of people or demographic, there are individuals. But this is why collectivism and identity politics is so important to the left, because they need to be able to group people into these groups. And they talk about how generalizations and stuff are bad, but the foundation of every single thing that they believe for and stand for is built on a foundation of identity politics. White, black, gay, whatever, like it's all titles. Democrat, Republican, like it's everything. Every single thing that they fight for and believe in is rooted in some kind of identity focus. And that's how it's always been. That's how it's always been with the Democrats. It's been that way forever. The narrative back then, when they tried to end slavery, was, wait, who's gonna pick our cotton? And now, what's the narrative today with all these illegal immigrants and stuff? Well, who's gonna pick our fruit? Who's gonna open up the taco street down the street? Who's gonna be our maids? Who's gonna clean our houses? Who's gonna mow our lawns? Like, you don't hear Republicans saying stuff like that because they don't take ownership over minority groups. Only Democrats take ownership over minority groups. Ownership, as in, we own these people, they're indebted to us, and if they, for some reason, stray off the path, then we were betrayed by them because they belong to us. If a person that is a Republican or a conservative says, I'm leaving the Republican or conservative party, then most people would be like, why? And they would explain themselves, and they'd be like, well, that's pretty stupid, but I mean, if that's what you want to do, then that's what you want to do. That's usually the response. You'll hardly ever see, well, I'm disowning you, we're kicking you out of the family, you're no longer a part of us. Now, you may see some stuff like that on a religious front. So if a Christian person who was raised in a Christian or Catholic home or something like that, and they're like, I don't believe in our God anymore, you can see disownership in that. But that's the same type of dogmatic kind of mindset and rhetoric that happens with the left, because the left functions essentially like a religion. There's blasphemers, there's you know, you can there's wrong speak and wrong think, you know what I mean? Like the whole framework of the leftist mindset is literally like a cult or a religion. It's the same thing. And you can find those similarities on the right and the left depending on how fanatical people can be, religious or whatever. But that's like a specific facet. But most right-wing people, conservatives, not necessarily Christians, but conservatives, even though a lot of conservatives are indeed Christians, but not all of them are like the same level. Whole nother conversation, but like the response is totally different. And you can see it online right now. People talk about, I left the left, and all of a sudden, every single person I've ever known has completely disowned me. I'm getting death threats now. People are treating me completely different now. And you hear, and I don't hear a lot of people saying they left the right. Like, I really don't hear a lot of people saying they left the right to be left. But I mean, you don't hear them getting completely disowned by their families when they do, on the rare occasion that happens. So, you know, I know we kind of really got into a whole bunch of other stuff, and the topics that I'm getting into were just kind of veering off into a bunch of other things. But like, the point of this video was supposed to be how me, a black man growing up in America, who grew up in freaking Cleveland, Ohio, one of the fucking worst places, one of the few worst places you can actually live, particularly East Cleveland, Ohio, which is a literal wasteland. How I managed to escape living my life as a victim, because the narrative just never made sense to me. And fortunately enough, I had a mother who was gracious enough to give me an opportunity to go out into this world and figure out what it is I wanted to do and what I wanted to be, without setting me up for failure ahead of time and just kind of preconditioning me for failure. Because that's what this is. It is a precondition for failure by the Democratic Party so they can make sure that they retain a hold on you. But what I recommend is, if you're in the Democratic Party and for some reason after all this time you've come to this realization that you might not be being represented as you think you should, that maybe you might be on the wrong side of history because now you're surrounded by people who are celebrating political murder and you think that that's kind of off, then I encourage you, take some time and go talk to the other side. Just talk to them about your views, about your thoughts, about what you think about them, about the fears that you have about them. Like, just have an open dialogue, and I promise you, you will be able to find somebody you can have that open dialogue with, and then try to take that same dialogue and talk to the people on your side, the good side, with all the good, compassionate, and empathetic people, and tell me how that conversation goes. And that'll basically give you all the answers you need right there. Do your own research. Don't take my word for it. Don't take anybody else's word for it. Do it yourself. Talk to the people on your side and talk to the people on the other side, and you tell me what the difference is. But, I just wanted to kind of talk about that, and I wanted to use my own face to do so because I think that's important going forward. And pretty much any videos that I upload on this channel for the foreseeable future will be with my face because, like I said, just believe that it's going to be necessary. So sorry I had to assault your eyes. But it kind of is what it is. I'm very camera shy. Even now I feel extremely uncomfortable doing this, but it kind of is what it is. So let me know what you guys think, and share your stories below on how you may have grown up in a society that tried to convince you that you will never amount to anything, and how you got past it, or how you didn't get past it. Tell me where you are right now and how you feel like you may have been somewhere else if you didn't listen to that type of rhetoric. Whatever it is you got to say, I'll be reading the comments. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys on the next one.